What attracted me to my street, I had been living, when I first moved away from my parents' home when I was 23, moved into Laclede town. And I don't know if you know what that was, but it was a wonderful, uh, very integrated, and income friendly place to live, and it was kind of downtown, but not too far downtown. It was just really nice. Moved from there to the Central West End. Had a real big apartment, like 8 rooms, and had a lot of plants. I've always liked a lot of plants. But my rent at the apartment building in 3 years rose 100%, and my salary didn't.
Mm.
So I couldn't afford to live there, even though it was really, really cheap. I mean, we're talking 30 years ago, so it was really, really cheap, but still it was more than I could afford. So I started looking for a place to move to. And at first I thought, maybe I could rent a house. I've always thought bigger than my income would bear, but I was driving around. I saw these old houses with lots of windows for my plants and lots of room for my animals. Back then I had dogs and cats, like 4 dogs and 17 cats.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw a house on Enright. It had a for sale sign on it, so I called the realtor. She said, well, that one's not available, but I have some ladies that go to my church, older ladies. They don't go anymore. They're kind of ill and elderly. She said, but they want to sell their house, and I'll take you over there and look at it. So she brought me here, and I loved it. Fell in love with it. It was filled with old furniture, and, uh, it seemed to be in pretty solid, good shape, and it was so inexpensive. $4,000 they wanted for this house. And the reason Miss Maddie sold it for $4,000 was because she had only paid $3,000, I think, for it. She bought it in 1944. The first black people that lived here moved here in 1935. Mm-hmm. That lady left it to her nephew, and he sold it to Miss Maddie in 1944. So she lived from 44 to 79, and that's all she asked for it, and it was filled with furniture. She gave me all the furniture. I think I gave her another $300 or something for all the furniture in the house. But she had run a boarding house here for single men. There were 7 bedrooms. Each room had a number on it. So in each bedroom was a bed, a dresser, a vanity, and a wardrobe, and maybe chairs or something. So I had all of that furniture. They took some, but I ended up with a lot of furniture. So, and over the years I've added my own, so that's why the house is a wreck. But anyway, and I have a thing where I can't really get rid of anything. I forgot what it's, separation anxiety. Can't get rid of nothing. So I fell in love with this house. I fell in love with the street. The neighbors were nice enough to me, and nobody gave me any trouble about having all my dogs and cats and stuff. I had a yard. I didn't have these lots on the side. The city came through maybe 5 or 10 years after I had been here and offered all the residents that you could buy a side lot that was adjacent, right up next to your house for $10 a front foot, which is only $250 when you count 25 feet across and 100 feet to the alley. At $10, that's, excuse me. Hi, Miss Anita. Oh, I was talking about the side lots.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought the side lot over here on the east. It's, I parked my car there and stuff. There was a house next to me, which was an active boarding house as well. It was the same floor plan as this one, and she had it pretty filled with single men. There was a house west of her, and it was vacant by that time. So it was on its way to being deteriorated. So I can't remember her name, but I tried to get her house sold for her before she got old and sick and moved into a senior home. But I don't know if she didn't want to sell or she just was, her mind was gone and she couldn't think well enough to get her house sold, but it ended up being boarded up too. That was the one right next to me. So when the city tore it down, I bought the lot. And the city had already torn down the one on the far side, and I bought that one too. That's how I got to have my house sit on 4 lots, and it's all fenced in. So, and as I would ride through the neighborhood and on the streets like Enright and Del Mar and north of me on Fairfax, CD Banks, Windsor Place is another one over there. Cook, all of those houses, they all had beautiful old structures on them. But they were going, and there was a lot of crime in the neighborhood like it is now. And you just couldn't get enough people to come in quickly enough to try to save them. So we ended up losing a lot of structures. I'm really sad about it. But North St. Louis, of course, I believe most of it is older than South St. Louis. So we have older, better, more elaborate housing stock. And the architecture is quite something. I mean, the West End, like Cavaney Place and Windermere and Beverly Place, all those private streets that eventually became eligible. It became eligible for black people to live on them because the restricted covenants, like at Lewis Place, kept them out until that court thing that outlawed restrictive covenants. That one. I can't remember the name of it, but I have a picture of it too, I think, or either it's in that book. So, but I think we're at a pretty good place now. People have organized and come together, and the special business district will help us. And one of the issues we have, though, is we don't have quite enough participation. People have moved into the neighborhood, but they tend to stay, to themselves. And they don't come out to the meetings like us older folks do. So that is one thing that we really are working on. Now, once the greenway, what's it called? Greenway, where they're gonna put a green belt along the Hodiamont Tracks. I think it's talked about in here. Once that is in place, it may attract people to come out of their houses more. If they have nice places to sit, the Hodiamont right-of-way is great. It's called the Great Rivers Greenway. Began considering the feasibility of converting the right-of-way into a walking, jogging, or bicycling path. People are starting to be more interested in the environment and in being able to be physically active outside of their own home. So I think overall, it's in the years to come, it's going to be easier and better for us to be able to be outside of our homes. And once you're outside of your home, I think it causes you to care more about what goes on outside of your home. We're gonna talk a little bit about Turner Park and how what is happening up there affects the neighborhood. So
very good.